神羅転生
Yo, what's going on everyone? It is the Mist again and welcome back to a new video on the channel today. So, episode 48 just came out and oh my god, obviously you guys know that I love Team 5, especially Iwabe. So for me this episode was so awesome and obviously I'm a little bit biased towards it because it did include my favorite character. So, to me, this episode was just perfect, okay? This episode was so good to me, obviously. I don't know about other reviewers, but this was definitely a good episode in my eyes anyways. This episode was really well done, in my opinion, especially with development for this team in particular, and I'm happy the way they did it, and they dealt with the characters and so on. It was just really, really awesome, and I think that it was a pretty decent episode, guys. So let's just get straight into it. So the episode starts off with Iwabe kind of realizing that, you know, everyone is thanking the Genin for the help in the Byakuya gang, you know, taking the Byakuya gang down, and realizes, you know, Medley and Dinky, we didn't get to help out. We were essentially useless, you know. We did one thing, but that resulted in our suspension, and we missed out on doing anything the entire time. And you know, the tuning exams are coming up. I do not want to be seen as a repeater. You know, I don't want to be a loser anymore. I really want to pass this, and that's essentially where the motive comes from. Because he tells the rest of Team 5, you know, we have to try really hard in order to impress Udon Sensei, so we can make sure that we get into the tuning exam, so we are approved by Udon Sensei. And that's essentially what they do. And something really interesting at the start of the episode essentially was that Naruto saw the like Iwabe's kinda, I guess, what would you call it, maybe certificate of some sorts, like a information or ID type of certificate, and he had like a bit of a shocked face. And to me that was already exciting me, because obviously when Naruto, the 7th Hokage, the most powerful shinobi of all time, looks at shock at my favorite character, you know, that kinda makes me really, really happy, because it means like, wow, he's noticing him, he's noticing Iwabe. So that made me super happy, and that kinda led up to what happened. So Naruto, this is essentially what happened throughout the episode, guys. Naruto knew that Iwabe was a repeater at the academy, and he knew that he was essentially just like him. Iwabe was just like Naruto. And, you know, he thought, I know the perfect mission for you guys. I know the perfect mission for you, specifically Iwabe. And this is what I'm going to put you on, so you learn a valuable lesson. And essentially the mission was to essentially create a documentary promoting what it means to be a Genin, what it means to be a shinobi, to bring in and entice younger kids, you know, academy age kids, to try to become Genin and try to join the academy. So that was what it was like made for. However, Iwabe and Team 5 were obsessed with being cool, obsessed with showing their strengths, obsessed with showing off. Not because they are like that, not because Iwabe and the rest like to show off, but because they thought that to show that they are good shinobi, that they had to show their strengths, and to do that they had to show off. So essentially that leads to Iwabe, Medley and Dinky kinda messing up some of the architecture and some of the buildings around where they were shooting, because the guy that was running it, the director of sorts, actually said, you guys are really lame, show me something more shinobi like. And this guy was a real dick, you know. He essentially called them losers and all this type of stuff. I'm gonna get into Iwabe's development and perfect characterization in this episode later on, but for now I'm just going to continue discussing the episode. So he calls them losers and repeat, like, you know, losers, they were suspended and whatnot, and that leads to them having essentially been forced to try to show off because he demands it. So they do, and it leads to, like I said, the buildings and the architecture to be destroyed. So Udon is like, no, we have to pull out of this mission, guys, I'm sorry. And that's when Udon says, Iwabe, do you think that this documentary needs to be cool? Do you need to use cool ninjutsu to promote what it means to be a ninja? And Iwabe kind of says, and the rest of Team 5 kind of say, well, yeah, I suppose so. And Udon's like, no, we aren't doing this mission anymore. And honestly, that was good of him, because, you know, he doesn't want his genin to grow up to think the wrong perception of what it means to be a shinobi. Not that they did have the wrong perception, but they were essentially in a position where they kinda had to think like that, and Iwabe was in a really tight headspace. Now this leads to something insanely important, and something that I am going to love for years to come. Probably my favourite scene that I've seen in a long time in the series. So Iwabe is down at the river thinking about what Udon said, and thinking about what the director said. These guys are pathetic. They are nothing but troublemakers and losers. They can't even do a simple task. They're just losers. And that Iwabe was literally about to throw his headband into the river, and the animation and art in the scene was honestly so good, and I cannot believe how good it was, if I'm being completely honest. And the way that they focused on Iwabe throughout this episode, you know, there's always, you know, when it comes to protagonists, there's always one that is mainly focused on. For example, Boruto is obviously focused on, whilst Sarada and Mitsuki, you don't really get an insight to their emotions and thoughts. But in Team 5, Iwabe is definitely the protagonist of sorts, if you get what I'm saying. Like, if this was his story, if this was a story based on Team 5, Iwabe would definitely be the protagonist, because the way they portrayed him and the way they focused on him was far above the rest of Team 5, and it's obvious that they are trying to set up this character for greatness, and I'll continue getting into that later on in the review, because I'm so happy. Honestly guys, Iwabe is so cool, and I'll even explain why soon, or even in a separate video. I don't care, I could discuss Iwabe all day. But essentially, Iwabe is literally about to throw his headband into the river, like about to go rogue nearly. He's saying, why? I don't want to be a loser anymore. I'm sick of this. Why? I'm a ninja too. And then he goes to throw up, but then he freezes because he realizes, you know, I can't do this, you know, I'm a shinobi too. And then Metal Lee literally comes in and punches him in the literally straight in the face. And the tension and the realness in the scene, this entire scene was done so well. Just the real interaction between friends, between teammates that respect one another, was so real, and I respected it so much, because Metal Lee comes in, punches him in the face. Iwabe, what are you doing? Your headband is the symbol of you being a shinobi. This is literally what symbolizes what it means for you to be a shinobi. What are you doing? How dare you throw this away? And then Denki comes in and, you know, tries to stop Iwabe, and then Iwabe's like, get off me, Denki, and then goes to punch Metal Lee. That's when Udon steps in and, you know, essentially gives them a talk. And this is where it gets even better. Udon explains to Team 5 that he was once a loser too, and that, you know, he repeated the academy several times, and, you know, when he became a genin, he was a burden to Moigi and to Konohamaru. But besides, even though all of that happened, you know, he continued and strived on, and he became a shinobi. So that's essentially what happens. And then Iwabe continues to think about what Udon said earlier about, you know, do you think this was needed for it to be cool? Do you think cool ninjutsu was needed and whatnot? And essentially, I'm not going to beat around the bush, guys. I'm not going to try to wait until the end of the review, which is kind of what I was planning, but whatever. The essential message of the entire episode is that it doesn't matter whether or not something is cool. It depends on what you're doing. Like, if you're a shinobi, it doesn't matter if you're cool or not, because you aren't doing it to be cool. To be a shinobi isn't to be cool. It doesn't matter. You know, you're doing this for occupation. You're here to save people. You know, what you're doing can be cool, but do not try to be cool, because that's not what you are. You are a shinobi. It doesn't matter if you're a loser. It doesn't matter if you're cool. And that's kind of the entire message. And you know, it was so good. So anyways, continuing onwards, so Iwabe has his think to himself, and yet again I need to discuss how amazingly well done his character was, you know, dealt with in this episode. But yeah, so Team 5 with Udon are walking down a street or whatever, and then they hear a paper bomb go off, and that was actually the director and his cameraman actually trying to get a good shot or whatever, trying to record some more for the documentary, because, you know, he's obsessed with coolness and whatnot. And Team 5 instantly rushes to the scene and save the people, and then Iwabe pulls out this insane new technique called like mud rock something, and it was so cool to see that, because he literally, okay, let me just say this. Essentially, there was a falling roof of a about 3 or 4 story building, concrete building, with a crane on top of it, falling, and Iwabe used his jutsu to smack it away. I just want you to think about that. That is literally insane, and my god, after doing that, you could tell it was hard for him, because he was literally just sweating afterwards after doing one thing. So obviously that was very, very challenging. I mean, obviously there would have been tons and tons of force and, you know, whatnot, so that was insane. Iwabe is literally just a beast. I'm such a fanboy of Iwabe, guys. I'm sorry, but if you don't like Iwabe, I don't know what's wrong with you, honestly. But continuing, guys, that's essentially what happened in this episode. And now the best part of the episode, the part that literally made me so happy, is Naruto acknowledging Iwabe. So they are in the Hokage's office, and Naruto's talking to the Team 5, and he says, Iwabe and Team 5, I was a loser too. I stayed back at the academy several times, but I pushed through and I became a shinobi just like Udon did and whatnot. You know, I pushed through and I persevered. And you know, Iwabe was shocked, and then Naruto's like, Iwabe, he says something about Iwabe, and then Iwabe's like, what? Lord Seventh? You know who I am? And then Naruto's like, of course I do. I heard that there was a really cool repeater from the academy. And like, Iwabe literally just started to cry because of, you know, this is why I love Iwabe's character. He's literally the most Naruto-like character within Boruto. When you look at the next generation, he is literally the embodiment of what the last generation was. You know, he literally represents what Naruto was as a character. From the next generation, if you're trying to compare anyone to Naruto, you're gonna have to compare Iwabe. I mean, they are very similar people, very arrogant, and they like to do things like in their own way, and they're very strong, but also they're seen as losers despite their strengths, and they doubt themselves sometimes. And Iwabe is literally the character most comparable to Naruto, and damn, this episode just made me feel so happy to see Iwabe's character just get so much shine and more development, and to have Naruto acknowledge him like that, it just makes me think of the future and think about his character, like what's gonna happen. It's just so exciting. Like, Iwabe's character is probably the most exciting within the next generation, if I'm being completely honest, guys. Being acknowledged by Naruto himself, with all the focus on his character, Iwabe is going to be a very important character, and that was definitely showcased within this episode. Let me know what you thought about this episode in the comment section down below, because I would love to hear your opinions on this episode. What do you think about Iwabe? What do you think about Team 5? And what do you think about Udon's new technique? Because that was insanely funny and also really unique and cool. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comment section down below, and I'll talk to you guys all in the next video. See you later, guys. Peace out.